Zadie Bees proudly presents the Faith, Fashion, and the Hustle podcast, hosted by the founder of Zadie Bees, Sonia Bryant.
Hi, good afternoon or good morning, wherever you're at the moment.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Sonia Bryant from Zadie Bees, the Faith, Fashion, and the Hustle. And I have a really cool, interesting guest today. Her name is Tiffani Wright, and she currently resides in Oklahoma. And I first noticed her on social media, and she has got such a cool personality. I can't wait to introduce her to you today. And we're going to ask her all kinds of questions, and we're going to take this slow and easy because I have so many questions I want to ask you, Tiffani. But welcome, Tiffani. I'm so
Thank
glad to
you.
have you. And
It's my honor.
well, we're privileged to have you. And tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're a pastor's wife in Oklahoma. You are from Texas, I believe. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're married
Yes.
with children. Tell us all about you. What's your
Yes,
current
ma'am.
status in life? I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. So the short rundown is I was a preacher's kid. I've lived a few different places, but I was in an RV for a long time with my family. We landed in Indiana for a few years. So the Fortville campground as a little girl was my comfort home.
Okay.
Whenever we left Indiana, we went to Dallas, Texas. We did move with the End Time Ministries. When they did their big transition, we
Mm-hmm.
went with them. So my family,
Cool.
my parents currently still live in the Dallas area. Whenever it was time to finish high school, I ended up at Texas Bible College in Lufkin, and
Okay.
that's where I met my husband. It's kind of like a sickly cliche way to meet your husband, but he wasn't even a student. But I did
So
meet
you
him
did
through
go
his
to
cousin.
TBC to get your
I did go to
MRS degree.
PVC. Yes.
That's what my husband says. Young ladies go to Bible college to get the MRS
The
degree.
MRS. I know, I know. So we met there. I went to help their church with their music, and we just kind of ended up in this love story. So we
Oh,
lived there
that's
for a while.
amazing.
We were youth pastors for Mark Green in Broadus for a
Yes.
while, and then
Okay.
6 years ago, right smack in the middle of COVID, we got elected to the church here in Lawton, Oklahoma, and
Oh,
we are still
wow.
here.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you have children too. Tell me about your kiddos.
We do. We have two kids.
Mm-hmm.
Amelia is my firstborn. She will be 11 this year.
Oh,
She's
wow.
my nerd, my book smart kid. We had to start her on, if you know anything about Abeka, we started her in Abeka whenever she was 4,
Oh,
because she
wow.
was just so smart. She needed something to do with that big old brain of hers. So we actually switched this year. So she's starting Liberty this year in 6th grade.
Okay.
So I'm excited for her. She's
Yes.
brilliant, very, very
That's
book smart. And then Sebastian is my 8-year-old, and he
hmm,
loves things all Lego and Ninja and
yeah.
things I really don't fully understand,
So he's a
but
typical
he's that
boy.
typical boy. Yes, he is.
He's a typical boy. He's a typical
So
boy. Oh, that's exciting. Well, that's great. And I love your names. Your children's names are, I love those names. They're beautiful.
thank you.
But I wanted to tackle this untamed pastor's wife. And if you would look at her on social media, her handle is untamed pastor's wife. But I want, before we go off into untamed, there we go, it's a mouthful, untamed pastor's wife, I want to find out about the dopamine dressing. Came across you, I don't recall how long ago, it's been months, maybe a year, I'm not sure. I came across you on social media. And I thought, who is this lady? Look at her. She's got confidence out the wazoo. But anyway, so we got to talking about you, and I know Miranda had reached out to you to clap with us, and it has been blowout, amazing. And I'm super excited. And so, one of the things that you do, and I'm going to have you do your jingle because it's what you do on social media, and that's what separates you from the mainstream on social media is dopamine dressing. So do your jingle for us.
Yep, it just came out one day. I've been dressing the way I dress for a
Uh-huh.
while, and someone made the comment, and they were like, "You really need like a label for this thing. You need to create a thing." And I knew it was it was dopamine,
Yeah.
and truly like the way that I dress, it comes from a need to kind of separate from the junk of life.
The
And so I
mainstream.
knew that whenever I was dressing crazy, I would go crawl in the closet and find things that made me happy. And so I knew that it had to be like, this is why we're dressing like this. And
Yeah.
so it's where it came from. And so all of a sudden one day it was just I need dopamine. You need dopamine. Let's get
It
dopamine
dopamine.
dressed.
I
And
think I have it
that's where it came
memorized.
from.
I think I have the jingle memorized. I think I could sing it.
Got it.
But honestly, in the world where there's so much negative, you're just a little bright light shining. And I know some people probably don't understand it. And honestly, when I first saw you, I'm like, oh, I'm not sure I get it. But after watching some of your reels and some of the stuff that you do on social media, it's pretty refreshing that you have your own style and your own flair. And honestly, with total confidence, and it makes me very happy. So I'm going to ask you some questions. I've got a zillion, bazillion questions to ask you, but I'm sure we're not going to have time to go through all of them. But I want to start for people that may not know, and you kind of already explained it about dopamine dressing. What does it reflect? And you've already kind of covered it, so I'm going to ask you to kind of go over it again. But what is dopamine dressing? It's basically,
So I didn't start the idea of dopamine dressing in general.
yeah.
Like it is kind of a sub trend that is on social media in general. And I kind of picked it up because I had the tendency to kind of be weird and I needed a place to kind of put that.
Yeah.
And so I took kind of what some of these large influencers are doing and kind of made it my own. Dopamine is a chemical that your brain needs and produces. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's not like connected to addiction or anything whenever it comes to my little world, but truly, like, we are all searching for that hit of happy. And
Yes,
some people find it in food, some people find it in social media, some people find it that part of your brain that lights up
that's
whenever it's
right.
happy.
That's right.
And for me, that's putting on a pink fuzzy hat or something really wild and weird. My orange I don't know. I put something on wild and it makes me happy. And it really came from the need to separate and come out of some of dark places. And we can jump into that at any
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
But there really is a story that kind of came behind all of this. And so it's been honestly kind of a God thing. It doesn't really look like it whenever you look at my outfits. I'm just kind of like this weird person on social media. And why is she wearing that with that?
Yeah.
But God really has used it to help me through some things.
That's amazing. Okay, let's segue right into that. You can tell me. I would love to hear how God used this to help you. I'm excited to
Yeah,
hear. Yeah, go for
yeah.
it.
I've always loved dressing vintage and old
Mm-hmm.
school. And so I have, growing up, I grew up knowing some really like basic and classic dressing styles and patterns. And I have that in me, and that's always going to be a part of me. There's also a part of me that has always looked to be different and to not fit in. And so in January of this year, we took on three foster babies.
Wow.
And it happened in the middle of the night. We were not a licensed foster home. And we said yes. Essentially, I said in the beginning, I said just over the weekend until CPS and DHS can find something more permanent. I mean, it was a family in our church already. They already knew us. We already had like an established connection and
Mm-hmm.
relationship to them. So it was considered a kinship placement. And so they brought these babies to my house. Actually, I said that kind of wrong. They gave us the first two babies, and the third one was born 3 days later. So we went to
Oh
the
my
hospital and picked up the newborn 3 days
goodness.
later after we got first brother, second brother, and the third brother was born. And all of a sudden, my
Whoa.
whole entire world changed.
Yeah.
I've been on social media kind of a long time. I started making hair videos whenever I was in Bible college. So some people watching this or listening to this are going to remember some of those Tiffany Treadwell slash Wright hair videos from 2010.
Oh
They're
my
so
word.
cringy, but that was my thing kind of then. And so I think it really kind of came out of the ditch that social media really is kind of something that I've enjoyed for a long
Yeah,
time.
the
I'm just not
ditch.
recording on a
I
digital
love
camera
that.
anymore.
The ditch.
Anyway, so I had just started making outfit videos, and whenever we got these foster babies, my world turned upside down. I was already a homeschool mom. I had just gotten a new stay-at-home job, learning all of the ins and outs of what it means to be in tech support, of all things. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Learning to support my husband, obviously, because, 6 years we're still new at pastoring,
sure.
right? So learning to
Absolutely.
support my husband at the church. Um, and my plate was full, I guess you could say. My plate was full.
Absolutely.
And I remember, I will never forget, I was standing in the bathroom and we were still discussing like what this means for us, what it means for our kids, what it means for, our marriage, the impact this will have on the way we can operate at church and all the different things, the details of what the
Yeah,
situation meant for us. And I looked at him and I said, the one thing that I know is that in the middle of all of this, I cannot lose myself. I cannot lose who Tiffany is. And a big part of who that was I was already using these outfit videos as kind of a hobby or an escape if we need to be more
sure.
dramatic about it, from kind of the things that I have to do. This was something that I kind of get to do. So in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
work, in the middle of calls, I just kind of go to my closet and I like this little shirt with this skirt or this hat looks cute with this scarf, and it was just kind of like an escape for me personally because I love fashion, specifically eclectic fashion, so
Mm-hmm.
much. And I said I will not give this up. I will do this. We will do what God has called us to do, but I'm going to keep this little part of me because it takes
Mm-hmm.
me 2 minutes to record a little outfit video before we run off to church or to
Yeah,
Sam's or whatever we have to do. It doesn't take up much,
yeah,
but it helps me maintain who I am, uh, separate from all of these roles that I have to fulfill or that God has called me to.
yeah.
And so I continued with it. And there were days when God really sustained me. There's moments in our lives where we can look at a situation and see nothing but gloom and doom and darkness. And truly,
Absolutely.
I was presented with so many decisions whenever DHS came in my home and interviewed my kids for 2 hours. I was
Mm,
presented with an option. I could have cried about it and pouted about it. I could have absolutely lived in the ditch. And I decided that if God gave us this opportunity, we're going to do it for His glory. I'm not going to sit here and carry this bag of yuck and show
mhm.
everybody,
Yeah,
oh, this is so sad and depressing. I chose in those moments to not hold it, but to give it to God. I had
right.
moments so often
Of
where I was crying,
course.
where I was upset, right? This
Oh,
is real
yeah.
life. But after crying for a moment, I always went back to, still, I will trust you.
That's
Though
right.
the storm rages on, no matter what I go through, no matter what I endure, this is for your
Absolutely.
glory. And
Absolutely.
because I am living aligned with Christ, his
Hmm.
joy is not determined by the situation that I'm living in this moment. And
Absolutely.
I learned so much about depending on God and
Hmm.
truly like that deep set joy that I can live in. I don't have to focus on this really hard moment, truly. Like we had some really hard moments.
Sure.
But I don't have to focus on those things. I can let God lead it.
Well,
I
I
can
have
let
a
him handle it.
question. Do you still have those three babies in your home?
They were reunified just a few weeks ago.
Oh, my
And so that
word.
season of our life is just ended, just behind us. I
Wow.
don't have any car seats in my car right now.
And
It's that season is
you
over.
came out on the other side still smiling and still joyful,
We
and that
did.
makes me
We did.
very happy because you're right.
Yes.
I look back at things in my life and you get on the other side and you think, I made it. How did we get
Yeah.
through that? But look at
Yeah.
you. And I'm just tickled that we have those testimonies that we can share with people that, like you said, when we're in the ditch or we're in deep dark night, that there is a light at the other side. Okay, we're going to talk some more about the dopamine thing.
Yes.
Um, how do you get up in the morning and say, okay, today is a rough day. I'm going to go in there, and I think you've already kind of addressed this, but I'm going to go in there and I'm going to dress bright and fun. Tell me what's your favorite color to wear. I would love to hear it. What's your favorite color to wear?
It's got to be pink. I mean, it's got to be
Yes,
pink. It's an iconic girl color. There's a reason why
absolutely.
girls love that color, but
That's right.
it has to be
I see
pink.
your pink hat sitting there behind you, so I love it.
Yes,
I
I
love
love
it.
it.
When I was a young girl, I was a hat wearer, and I wore hats all the time as a young girl. And I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, so hats were a big deal, especially big floppy hats. And I recall my dad, I was a little girl, my parents had split up, my dad had moved to Georgia, and so I was flying from East Coast or West Coast to East Coast. So I flew from California, San Francisco to Atlanta, and I walked off of the plane with a big floppy hat. And my dad told me many years later, he said, "Oh my word, I saw you walk off the plane with that huge hat." And I was like, she looks like a little old lady waddling off that airplane. But I was, that was a fashion statement. I loved fashion, and I did it as a little bitty girl. And I remember my dad making fun of me many years later. Of course, he didn't tell me at the time, but I do. My expression's not as quite as bold as yours, but I actually look at this. I have a dopamine top on today.
I love
This came
it.
from
I'm
my
here for
daughter-in-law
it.
Stacy. She and I were shopping one time, and she bought it, and I'm like, I'm a little jealous. I love that top. So this past weekend, I got it in the mail. She shipped it to me from California,
Oh,
maybe
that's
Arizona, but
precious.
I was like, yes, this is my dopamine top, Tiffany. I love
I
it.
love it. I love animal print.
I do too.
It goes
I
with
know.
everything.
It does. It's amazing. And trends, you think animal print's going to go away. It doesn't. It just continues to
Hmm.
evolve. It may be more cheetah, more leopard, more zebra. And I know zebra is kind of coming on the scene this year, this
Yes.
fall. The zebra, I'm
Yes.
noticing it creeping
Hmm.
back into our fashion. But back to you. Hats, you wear put all kinds of things together, fun colors, but pink is your color. I think I've seen a lot, and I've also seen you in a lot of red, it seems. So,
I
am I
do
right?
like red. I
I do
do. I'm trying to
too.
embrace it more. I don't know
Yeah.
why red intimidates me more than pink. Like I really just embrace
Yeah.
the pink. And I've had a little bit of trouble, but I love it. And so I am buying more red. I bought a red dress a couple of weeks ago and I thought
Did you?
we're gonna embrace the red.
I'm a red girl. I love pink, but if I'm gonna pick the two to wear, for me personally, I probably gravitate to red because red's probably a better color on me. Pink is probably okay, but I love red. Love, love,
Yeah,
love, love
I
red.
love it.
Okay. All right. Do you think here, let's put these on. I want to ask, I have so many questions to ask you. Um, what would you say would be your boldest fashion choice that you've ever made?
Ooh, um, You know what? Sunday, I feel like as I progress and kind of grow, my choices become bolder. But Sunday, I wore a really cool outfit that I absolutely loved, and I knew that as soon as I posted it, it would get some comments, and I didn't care. But I wore a leather hat with a big old orange band, and I wore this top that was covered in like dog it said wolf all over it with big old puffy sleeves and a pink tiered skirt. And it just made me so happy.
That,
That
that
was probably
is
the boldest thing
wild.
I've done in a minute
That's
because I
that's
loved it.
wild. Okay, this is the thing that I noticed. Social media can be brutal, as you well know, I'm sure.
Yes.
So it's interesting, just a little, or not little bits, lots of bits we get people making comments, and I think I've said this one other time on the podcast. I'm like, my mom said when I was growing up, if you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. Now, have you ever heard that term before?
Absolutely.
And I don't think a lot of people were taught that growing up. And I'm one of
Mm-mm.
those people, if I see something that doesn't intrigue me or I'm not interested or I don't like it, go right past it.
Right.
So, I'm like, I find it comical, sometimes frustrating and aggravating that people they have keyboard courage and they are very, very able to say anything they want because they're behind a screen.
Absolutely.
You can't necessarily see their face. But
Right.
but how do you deal with those criticisms in social media? You seem like the personality, like, oh, well, who cares? Am I right?
I honestly don't care, but it is to the credit that I mean, I was getting comments on YouTube in 2009. It was not as many or as much.
Yeah.
But I am used to sometimes people just get on the internet and want to troll. Like if they're not going to troll me, they're going to
Yeah.
find somebody else to troll.
Yeah.
And so I mean, there's a couple of different kinds of commenters. I will say that. Like some commenters are nonsense and some like they're going to affect you a little bit more. They know a little bit more about you. They know a little about
Mhm.
more, what you are. And so their comments sometimes get a little bit more specific. And sometimes those I'm like, I have to work through that for a minute, but I think there's a couple of different reasons why people comment. Obviously, trolls, like they just kind of have their own world and I don't care about them.
Yeah.
Some of the ones though that have been connected to, the apostolic movement before of any kind, those really they do affect me a little bit in the fact that I know that those comments come from a place of pain or a previous connection. Some people are just really comfortable with someone who doesn't live in the box, right?
So
Because you're,
are you saying, and I think if I'm hearing this right, that many times people make comments because of the area, the place they are in life, and
yeah,
expound on that. I'd love to hear your theory on that.
yeah. I
So
mean, people walk away from God and walk away from the church, and I think sometimes people need validation in their pain. And I feel like that sounds so callous. And truly, I don't mean it that way. I have such a
no,
heart for
I don't.
those. You understand what
No,
I'm
I feel
saying.
your compassion. I get it. I understand. But yeah, I do. I think sometimes people just use social media as an outlet, and that's
Yeah,
their place to voice their opinion, because that maybe they
absolutely.
don't feel heard. But
Yeah.
okay, this podcast is about faith, fashion, and hustle. We've kind of talked a little bit about the fashion part, and that's who you are. You're the untamed. Oh, I want to ask you about the Untamed Pastor's Wife. Tell me about that title. Where did that evolve from?
It's kind of funny. I downloaded a game. I was in the world of getting points that you could cash out for like groceries and coupons. And so I had downloaded a game on my phone and it'll spit out a generated username, right? And it
Yeah,
generated something along the line. There were some numbers and stuff, but it said Untamed Hedgehog. Like it was just a silly name that it generated for me.
yeah.
And I don't know why, but for some reason, like the untamed part, like kind of stuck out to me because this was 4 years ago and we
Yeah,
were still learning like ministry and what it meant to be pastor, right? Like what
yeah,
does that mean to me? And so I knew that like I was not like your typical run of the mill pastor's wife. And so I really kind of latched onto it and I thought it really fits me as
yeah.
far as where I am right now in my life.
Well,
And
you don't
so
fit in a
that's
box. You're saying you
no.
don't fit in a box. You're very untamed. And so, yeah, and you like animal print. So, what can I
Hmm.
say? But no, that helps us understand where the name came from because I was curious. I was like, okay, where did this name come from? Okay,
Yes.
so we've talked about fashion. Now we're going to talk a little bit about faith, and you have kind of expressed a little bit about your faith. But what is it like being a pastor's wife? You've been a pastor's wife for 6 years. I've been a pastor's wife for 38 years. Um, there, I worked in the medical field many years ago, and this just a little light on pastor's wife. I was in the medical field many years ago in the 90s, and one of the physicians I worked with is a rheumatologist, and when he found out that I was a pastor's wife, he goes, "Oh my goodness, Sonia, are you on antidepressant?" I looked at him like, "What?" He said, "You need to get on one today." And I was like, "Why?"
Wow.
He said, "Because pastors' wives live in a glass house and everybody's watching, even though your pastor's the lead, your husband is the lead in the home and in the church, but they're watching everything we as women do, how we conduct ourselves, how we act, how we everything we do, they're watching us. They're in a
Yeah.
glass house. And so the reflection sometimes is not always as it seems. Many people put ministry on a pedestal. Well, I feel like it's a mission and a ministry. It's not to elevate me in ministry. It's truly a God-given um, calling. And even though our husbands are the ones that are called, God also chose us to be their helpmate. So we become very effective or non-effective in our roles as pastors' wives. And I want you to share with us. I know 6 years to some seems like forever, some seems like just a small amount of time, but I'm
Yeah.
interested in how God has allowed your growth as a pastor's wife. And yeah, go for it, girl. I want to hear.
It's been an interesting journey. We came into a church it was an established church. At the
Mhm.
time, there were 18 people. And I know that a lot was impacted by COVID and everything that,
Oh, yeah,
the world went through together.
sure.
And I've learned a lot.
Hmm.
I've learned a lot. We're currently somewhere between 50 and 70, depending
Awesome.
on, the
Yeah.
service. And we have grown. I've learned a lot about prayer, about
Hmm.
sustainability,
Hmm.
about being a constant for people, about being available and what it means to balance being available to my people at church, to be
Hmm.
available to my kids since we homeschool, to my husband. And it really is a juggling act, truly.
It is.
But I'm thankful.
Yes.
It would be easy for some people to look at the situation and get bitter at little things. But God
Hmm.
is teaching me to give grace because I need grace.
Absolutely.
In 6 years, I've made a lot of mistakes. And so I've required grace. And so because I see where I need it, God is showing me how to give it in abundance.
Hmm. Well, I feel like pastoring in general is like, you hear of spinning plates, the guy at the
Yes.
circus that's spinning plates. While this one's spinning and this one's spinning, you're running to and fro trying to keep the plates spinning. And
Yes.
that's really a great depiction of pastoring is
Yes.
you're running to and fro, keeping all the plates spinning while trying
Absolutely.
to minister to everyone in the flock. And everybody doesn't
Hmm.
ministering all the time, but that is part of your role. And to show people grace, and that's truly one of the things I've learned over the years is you have to learn how to give people grace because they're human
Right.
and they make mistakes, and we're the ones there to pick them up when
Right.
life gets tough. And so also, but we go through those times too. So that's the interesting part is sometimes like, okay, who's picking me up, you guys?
Right.
But the hustle. Okay, we've talked about faith. We've talked about fashion. Now we're going to talk about the hustle. So you've talked about how you took on these babies, how you took on, you have your children and you're homeschooling, you're a pastor's wife, and you work a full-time job. Am I right?
Yes.
So the hustle for a woman of faith, and I believe you are a woman of faith. How does it look, the hustle? How does that look for you?
I think it's important to recognize, I think every minister's wife has a different role and perspective and hustle, and
Hmm.
it looks different for all of us,
Hmm.
right? And I think the most important thing for us to recognize is that mine doesn't look like yours. And so, for the stay at home minister's wife who God has not given her an opportunity to make a moneyable income,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, I want you to know that if that's not where God has put you, don't fight his will for you. If it is your role
Hmm.
right now to
Hmm.
raise a baby, even if you're in the nursery during service, what a gift.
Yeah.
It has been 12 years since the last time I held a job. And that 12 years has been full of, my babies, and I've given them 100% of my time.
Hmm.
And God really opened the door for me And I have an incredible job right now that is so fluid and fluctuating. They're flexible with me. And so I am
Fantastic.
able to do things like this, like, hey,
Yes.
I need to jump off for a while. I've got something else that's calling for me.
Yes.
And so I'm thankful because he's given me this door, and everyone's door into income looks different. Our
Yes.
economy is in a place where we're always looking for extra money.
Yes.
So we've started Whatnot. That's new for us. We've had a
That's
couple of
amazing.
Whatnot shows,
That's
and we're
amazing.
loving that.
Yes.
But just as God opens the door for us to make money through the things that we enjoy,
Yes.
um, don't force doors open. Let
Huh?
God open them.
Absolutely. And I'm an advocate for that. Very much of an advocate of if you walk up to the door and you have to push, it's not the right thing. If
That's
you
right.
tap it and it just flies open, God's in it. And
Right.
I've walked that way throughout my business life, through my church life. God's in control and you can't
Yeah,
force things. If you do,
absolutely.
you're going to wind up in a mess. But okay,
That's right.
back to some more questions. Okay, what does hustle look like in your life right now? You're handling job, children, all of this. But outside of being a pastor's wife, what are you most passionate about?
Obviously, fashion. I
Yes.
love clothes. I love combining things that are very classic, very old school, and using that base, but then breaking the rules. Like, find out what all the rules are and then break them all.
I love that. That's
That really is where I live. I know what the rules are, and I can put something together that follows all the rules. But that's the fun for me in
yeah,
breaking them, knowing what the rules are, then breaking them.
that's crazy.
For sure, for sure. My husband has a motorcycle, and I enjoy riding with him.
I
That's
love
one of
it.
our hobbies that
That's why
we
you
we
have your
listed.
hair this way today. You must be going motorcycle riding.
We went for
My
a ride yesterday.
my husband has a Harley, and my friends asked me. He rides with some of his preacher friends, and they asked me. They asked me if I'm going to ride the Harley. I said, "Are you kidding me? I couldn't get a helmet over this hair." What has failure taught you that success could never teach you?
I think tenacity and determination,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that even if a venture is not successful, you've still learned what it means to get back up. Because if you never fall, then you never have that need or
Oh,
really
yeah.
the opportunity to get back up. And that can go as big as like starting a business and it failing, which we learned 2 years ago. We did start something that failed. And I'm not ashamed of it because we were determined enough to start something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though it
Mm-hmm.
failed, we learned a lot from it and moving forward. But it doesn't have to be as big as that. Sometimes, like waking up in the morning and failing at having a good attitude in the first
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes, like if you are able to recognize, small failures and
Yeah.
learn from them, don't don't bust the small things.
No,
Like whatever
no.
I learned to apologize to my kids,
Yeah.
that's a big one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry guys. I had a lot of things on my plate this morning and I had a bad attitude. And that is one thing that I feel strongly about is letting my kids know, like I'm not happy go lucky all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes something makes me upset and I have to apologize for taking it out on you and for saying something more sternly than I should have
Yeah.
or being, moody.
Being a person, being human.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
You're human?
Hmm.
What is something you've had to unlearn about being a good Christian woman?
Ooh, that's good.
I know it's a hard one, isn't it?
Ooh, honestly, I think I have to go back to grace.
Yeah.
And really it's been a theme for us in the last few years is that I think the number one thing that people forget about is how much space we have to give people for
I
grace.
completely agree. I sat with a
People
young
that we
couple.
work with are going to mess up,
Yeah, I sat with a young couple this past weekend at church after everybody left and sat on the front row with them and talked to them about some of the areas in their life that they are aware that needed work. And I'm like, but talking through it, not hammering, not not being mean, but giving grace and reflecting on what God can do, what God has done for you and where you are. But these are some things that we need to work on. So
Right.
giving people room to grow is huge, huge. And I think
Absolutely.
a lot of times people get in the mode of, well, chop, chop, they need to, they need to straighten out. But God gave us grace.
Right.
He's given us so much room to make room to make mistakes, like you said. So, okay, more questions, girly. I got some more. Okay. How do you deal with pressure of social media, constantly seeing other women? And this is something I think we all encounter if you ever scroll social media, or maybe you don't ever look at social media, but women tend to compare themselves among themselves. The Bible says not to do that. But how do
Hmm.
we do tend to fall into that trap? Well, her life on social media looks so amazing. She's got all this, she's got this, but I know that behind the scenes, just like you said, behind the scenes, it doesn't look what those pretty pictures that we post on social media is not the true reflection of your entire life. We all have
Right.
come from dark places, all come from places in our life where we've had trials and tribulations. It could be church, it can be family, it can be job, it can be business. There's all these things that present in our life hardships, but
Hmm.
we don't present all the hardships on social media, and I'm glad that we don't. But it does cause sometime angst for other people looking on, thinking, oh, they've got the perfect life. Well, that's not true. I'm one of those people. I don't want to display all the bad things that go on in my life because, sometimes we're okay with them. Sometimes we're a little ashamed of some of the things that we've encountered, but do know that everybody experiences hard times and difficult times, and I kind of took it away there, but yeah, explain to me what you think. What do you think about all that?
I will say I'm thankful for those who are willing to show a little bit of the behind the scenes,
Yeah.
you know? And as much as I love social media has honestly, some of the comments and some of the women who have shown up for me on some of the videos that I've made in the middle of really dark moments have really helped to carry me through that you're not alone, you're not doing this by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That has been so helpful. But I think that as much as we are all on social media, we cannot forget about those personal connections outside of a
Mm-hmm.
screen, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that means an inbox message versus a comment on somebody's video. And
Agreed.
I've had some beautiful messages in my inbox that have been so eye-opening that I'm not the only one going through some of these situations, right? But then, like, having those in-person relationships and connections that have nothing to do with social media, they build us so much. There is something
Mm-hmm.
psychological about that 12-minute conversation with somebody, right? That it can just kind of reset you. You
Yes.
remember you're not by yourself. Like the other person on the phone is not contacting you, for a social media moment. Like it's just real.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we have to go back to the days where like you just go to somebody's house and you hang out or you go to a coffee shop and
Mm-hmm.
you realize that like there's other people doing this thing too. I'm
Yeah,
not by myself here.
that's right.
We're a movement. It's not me and mine, we're all in
That's
this
right.
together.
We're sticking together. Personality types and all, we're all sticking together. Um, have another question for you. What does freedom mean to you in compared to the last 5 to 10 years? How have you changed? Would you say you're free from maybe some of the things that you went through, and how have you expressed it?
So 5 to 10 years ago, I was a youth pastor's wife with babies. So I'm kind of just going back to those moments and truly coming out of having babies, like as a young mom. I think sometimes you get lost and you forget who you are in that season. And it's a delicate balance between letting your hormones regulate again,
Sure.
right? And not forgetting who you are on purpose.
Yeah.
Um, I think you're very vulnerable in that season. Obviously, physically, I didn't look like myself because I just had two babies,
Oh,
right? C-sections.
yeah.
All of the hormones change the way you look. And truly, I did let myself kind of forget who I was. And
Mhm.
it was through the determination to be the best mom I could for these babies. And to me, in that moment, it meant losing all sense of who I was, right?
Mhm.
Like I wasn't investing in my closet, I wasn't investing in my skincare or my health or really any of the things. I just wanted my babies to have a perfect home. And so I put all my money into their clothes and I took all of the pictures and I was sewing bonnets and truly my life revolved around them. As my hormones regulated and I kind of got back into a place of, they were becoming more independent, school, walking, feeding themselves, right? And they didn't need me physically as much anymore. I started to remember who I was. And I think, like, looking back at who Tiffany was as a new mom, I would remind her that you're not less good of a mom by simple things like curling your eyelashes on the way to
Yeah.
church.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yes.
sometimes it is those little things that we
Little
need
thing.
to remember
Mhm.
to take care of ourselves, to
Sure.
be the best mom we can for our kids. And so to Tiffany as a new mom or to any new mom listening to this, you are a better mom for taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? Like if you've been
Yes.
wearing that same dress and you're tired of it, but you feel so selfish for investing in your closet, that's okay. Not only is it okay, but you will be better for those
It's true.
around you
It's
whenever
true.
you remember not just like a confidence in yourself, but a godly confidence that you are a
Agreed.
woman of God, that God
And
has
you,
chosen you.
absolutely. And you do still have a spouse that cares
Yes,
about how you look.
absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's a perfect thing to say that, you know, your spouse is still living in that home. And sometimes
Mhm.
that you're so focused on those babies that many times our husbands are, and many times won't say anything, but they feel very neglected and they're not going to whine because they're men. Now, I'm sure there's some that do, but I think women should totally, you're absolutely 150% right, should take care of yourself. Make yourself presentable every day. Don't, if you're
Yes.
at home, stay home mom, don't stay in your nightgown or your robe all day long and look like a messy lady when your husband walks in the door. You should always make yourself look good. I mean, he may come home at 4 o'clock and at 3:30 you're running to the bathroom spiffing up. That's okay. But I do think that that's extremely important. I really do. And I think women don't sometimes don't think about that, but I think it's super important. But you
Absolutely.
found your place and you found that dopamine high. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. What does your husband think about dopamine? What does he say?
He loves it. And I think really the thing that he appreciated the most at first was that my confidence was coming back, that I was more
That's cool.
confident, in really every aspect. Because
Yes.
when I feel good about myself walking out, I'm going to present myself to my family, to others, in a more positive way. Like if I'm thinking positive about myself and I'm not
Yes.
slouching and just
Yes.
slinking out the door,
Yes.
just I'm just here, right? Like I'm not afraid of saying, actually, I don't want to go to that restaurant. I want to go to this one.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to go to this one is because I think everyone is going to enjoy it more, right? And like that makes me that helpmeet for him again.
Sure.
That makes me his partner, not just this sad little piece of his
That's
home.
right. Would you encourage women to step out a little bit? I know everybody's not going to dopamine dress like Tiffany, right? But I do think that it's okay. Many times we become so regimented in how we are and I see this happen at ZDBs. I've seen it for years. Women come in our store and you present them with a garment and they're like, "Oh, I would never wear that." And I have done my best to encourage them to step out of the box because there is something to be said about confidence when you encourage someone to do something different than they're used to doing. Oh, honey, I only wear a top and a skirt. I don't wear dresses. And I've watched it revolutionize a woman's attitude. She walks out the door and like, oh my word, I can wear a dress. I had that happen when I was training my staff at Las Vegas. One of the employees, she was in a top and a skirt, and I was talking and I was training, and I said, "Here, what size do you wear?" She said, "Well, I wear da da da." And I said, "Okay." So I walked over to the rack, pulled a dress off. I said, "Here, can you run try this on?" She kind of looked at me, had this really crazy look on her face, like, no, you did not. And so she went in and tried it on, came out, and everybody was oohing and ahhing. She's like, I would have never chosen this outfit to put on. I would have never even thought to do that. And she was blown away. And everybody, her confidence level, even in that moment, just catapulted. And everybody was like, oh my word, you look so cute. And that dress, it looks so good in you. And I've seen this happen over and over and over. So what are we going to encourage ladies to do? Step out of the box. You don't have to dress crazy and wild like Tiffani, but she does it amazingly well. But step out. Don't get stuck in a rut, in a ditch,
Yeah.
and try something new. I encourage you to. And you would be shocked, even a new hairdo, a new way you wear hair, a new pair of glasses. My daughter-in-law, Stacy, worked for an optometrist for several years, and I got to the point where I needed glasses. I don't wear them all the time, but she got me into this thing of buying glasses, and I love glasses. I love colors and all those things, and I probably would have never done that had it not been for her. So choose that friend that's experimental and can help you step out of the box. And Tiffani, you're the epitome of that, and I love it. I love your personality, and I was telling you earlier, I'm just a wee bit jealous of that little
My
white
streak.
streak. I love
Yes.
it. I love it. I told my sister one time, who's 8 years older than me, I said, I would love to have that Corilla DeVille white streak in my
Hmm.
hair. And she laughed because at our age, we have gray, but it's not super prevalent. And she said, well, but you want sprinkles because at a distant people can't see your gray. And I was like, oh, yeah, you got a point. You got a point there. So at my age, I'm like, okay, I got sprinkles. It's going on. But that white streak is
Absolutely.
the bomb.com. I
Thank
love it.
you.
It's so
Thank
cute.
you.
Okay, so I've got more questions. I know we're getting close to being out of time. So I want to ask you some fun questions. Okay, let's see if I can pull these little boogers out here. I've made so many notes. I'm crashing here. Okay, time for the glasses again. Okay, I'm going to ask you some fast fire, quick fire questions. Heels or sneakers?
It's got to be heels.
Okay,
That's just who I am.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. Color or neutrals? And I know the answer to this one.
Ask the dopamine girl if she wants color or neutrals.
Color all the way. A leopard or floral?
That's hard because I used to be floral and I'm really leaning more into the leopard. So that's got to be a 50-50 for me right
Yeah,
now.
okay. Cool beans. Okay. Thrift store treasure or boutique splurge?
Thrift stores. I
Yes.
can't help it.
I
That's who
know.
I am.
But you find treasures. That's the cool thing.
Yes.
Don't you find it's like, and I love to thrift, but in our area, we don't have a whole lot of good thrifting. But I
Hmm.
know my sister lives in Tucson and they have these amazing, my niece lives there. They have these amazing thrift stores. If I lived there, I would be a thrifty junkie for sure.
Hmm.
What color, and I think I know the answer to this, one color you would wear every single day of your life.
Pink.
Pink, of course. Pink, pink, pink. Okay, one fashion trend you hope never comes back.
Oh, mercy. Honestly, it's got to be it's got to be probably those camisoles with the lace edging. Like, it's funny because whenever I was a teenager, I remember I wasn't allowed to wear them and I wanted to, and all my friends wore those lace-edged camisoles. And looking back, I think, thank you, Jesus, for a good mother
Were they
who
hokey?
understood that those were silly. Those are just silly.
Hokey, huh? One fashion trend you desperately want to come back.
Say that one more time.
One fashion trend you would desperately love to come back.
Oh, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a wild one, huh?
I think a lot of things from the 70s, honestly. I love shoulder pads.
You know what?
I love
You
shoulder
read,
pads.
girl, you read my mind. I I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I'm telling you, shoulder pads were the bomb. And I was thinking this morning when I put this top on, it's a little loose and it's a little oversized. I thought, man, a set of shoulder pads would make this amazing. It would make it so good. But they're not back yet, but I have a feeling they'll be back. They're going to be back. Is your
Pretty good bet.
personality, if your personality were an outfit, what would it look like, Tiffany? Pink.
Pink for sure. And you know what's funny? I just got a jacket that it just came back from the dry cleaners. I thrifted it and I've got to replace the buttons, so I haven't worn it yet. But it is the wildest kind of obnoxious jacket. It's
You
got these
have
big
to
old, it's
send me
pink,
a
fuchsia,
picture. You have to send me a
big
picture.
old bubble sleeves, big old
Huge.
wide collar. It's a double-breasted situation down here, a little bit of a peplum flare. Like it
You
is
know
the most
what?
obnoxious pink.
Sounds like did you I know you're way too young to know about Leslie Lux, but Leslie Lux was a brand in the 70s and early 80s, and in my early marriage I had a Leslie Lux red suit, had the huge puff sleeves, big black buttons, a peplum jacket, had sotash scrolling on it. It was actually so stinking cute with a straight skirt. It was darling, but it was really over the top. But that was the style. The big,
Yeah.
huge puffy sleeves, the big square
Yep.
collars, the big, huge collars. That collars like you're wearing
I
was
love me a big old collar.
in. It was the in thing. It was amazing. But so we gotta wrap this thing up with a bow and a nice big collar and a hat, and we gotta tie it all together. What was some of the last parting things you'd like to share with our audience about faith, fashion, and hustle, and what it means to you? Just give me a little expose here, quick and fast, but give me something what you would love to share with our audience.
Absolutely. I think the number one thing that I want people to walk away from me and what is lasting is
Hmm.
be who God has called you to be. If that is loud and bright and bold like me, lean into it.
I
If
love it.
that is all black every day because your brain needs the extra space and capacity to do what God's called you to do, do that. If
Yes,
everyone else is wearing a stiletto and you need to wear sneakers or Converse, do that. Be who God has
absolutely.
called you to be. You're not called to be a duplicate of somebody else. Be who God has called you to be.
I love that. You're amazing. And I love your personality. I love your spice, your smile. You're just a breath of fresh air, and I love it. And you guys go follow the Untamed Pastor's Wife. She's pretty amazing. And I'm so thankful you got to be on our podcast today. And we'll share it with everybody. And I love hearing your story. And we may have to do this again because there's more to your story, I know. But
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so thankful you got to be here today. Thank you for sharing part of your day with us. And
It was my honor.
yes, thank you so much.